Welcome to the Silent Thinking Podcast, a space to slow down, breathe, and reconnect. Today I'm reading from Walking the Path, A Leader's Journey by Dr. Keith McNally, a reflective story about the inner journey of leadership. Just listen and let the stillness support you. The story continues. To not solicit suspicion from his parents, John stayed in his room when the work on the farm was done. When he could, he made visits to Jose and Liz. These visits were on separate days. His older sister teased him about his dream of going over the mountain or going on adventure. When he continually did not offer a rebuttal, his sister thought the idea has passed. She had better things to do with her time anyway. But John could do nothing but think about his next great adventure. The idea both empowered and terrified him. When the thought terrified him, John would lay back on his bed and stare at the ceiling in his bedroom. Then he would read more of the journal. Jose's grandfather had much to say about his personal growth. In fact, Juan's journal was much more about the mental and spiritual journey than it was a physical one. In a literal sense, with each step crossing the mountains, Juan was entering new territory. But it was the spiritual and emotional growth that Juan expressed in the journal. He was changing, and that change was ever more evident with each written page. As he turned back toward the ceiling, his eyes would glaze over as he fixed his thoughts on the potential rewards of crossing over the mountain. Was there life outside the valley? What was life like outside the valley? Who will I meet? How will I live? This last question always brought him around to the practical steps he needed to take to achieve his goal. He grew up on a farm, so as part of his planning, he would need to take some seeds with him. If he made it across, he would need to start a garden or something. Plus, he was a good hunter, and he could fish as well. There should be no lack of food. I don't think I'm going to starve, John said aloud. But his thoughts would then turn to Liz. He now felt responsible for her. If she was joining him on this adventure, he would need to protect her. She was good with a bow, of course, but climbing the mountains was his idea to begin with. She chose to join him. He did not ask her to. Still, the idea did not sit well with him. In fact, the idea troubled him, so much so that he decided to tell her that he did not want her to go with him. He always acted bravely when Liz was with him. He liked to prove himself, but this was different. He had to be brave, even in the light of not knowing what to expect. The fear of having to face something horrible made him second-guess himself. What if he came across something he did not know how to handle? What if he failed at crossing the mountain? Worse, what if he died trying? When these thoughts overwhelmed him, he calmed himself by saying, "Failure is one way of thinking, success is the other. You choose which way to follow." He thought long about these words, then smiled. They made sense. He was glad he thought of them. John wrote them down in his notebook. Then he thought more about what he needed to do to make his trip, his adventure over the mountain. The next day, John raced upstairs to his bedroom after work. He was feeling anxious, as the countdown to leaving was now a very real thing, and that Liz was wanting to go, and he had not yet told her that he did not want her to go with him. He felt comfort diving deeper into the journal. At the start, I got lost even on a deer path. The path goes in different directions, and I was not sure which way to go at times. I had to backtrack, which used up time and food. I went without water for days at a time. There was a time I thought I would die of dehydration, but I learned to follow my gut and this inner voice that seemed to direct my steps from time to time. In the month, in the month that followed that first step, I got much better at listening to the sound of my inner voice, what I learn and what I do not want to forget. I'm an important person, regardless of how others think or feel about me. I was created for purpose, even if I'm still figuring it out. I live to produce more in life, not just to consume, destroy, or waste. All things have equal purpose in life. I needed to share that so I would not forget it. These were the most important lessons I learned. With them, I think I could accomplish much more in life. These truths are not self-evident. If they are, the lessons taught by other people over time diminish the value of these lessons until they are lost in thought and forgotten. They must be taught again. They must be shared. I hope this message reaches the people that it needs to reach. If not, then future generation may suffer the same loss I did. John closed the journal slowly. Sometimes Juan's words were easy to consume and understand. At other times, his words took on a life of their own. It was like he was another person. One driven to succeed in climbing the mountains, then the other who was changing on the inside, becoming someone else. John did not know how to take all of this, but somehow he thought that this was what Jose had expected when he gave him the journal to begin with. Jose's great-grandfather was no longer this weak, crippled man. He was growing and changing, and in doing so, he was teaching John what to expect from the journey ahead. A few days passed before John asked to meet Liz at the tree house again. The time had come to make the final preparations before the real work of crossing the mountain began. While his excitement grew, he maintained his composure so as to not alert his family. Sneaking supplies a little at a time out of the house seems too easy. A bit too easy as he thought more about it. He wondered if he had been found out. Were his parents aware of his plans? Were they trying to set him up and catch him on the last day? The more he thought about the situation from that perspective, the more ludicrous the idea was to him. His dad would not wait to set him up. If his dad knew what he was attempting to do, he would have been grounded. He would not be allowed out of the house for a month or longer. Did Liz tell someone? Was she trying to keep him safe from his own delusional thinking? Maybe traversing the mountain was a crazy idea. After all, he was only following after a dream, and the dream was now inspired by one man's journal writing. If perceived this way, the idea was ludicrous. No one talked about the mountains. No one climbed over them. No one did this, not in 70 years. Were the people in the valley right all along? Were they really protecting everyone from the dangers on the outside? Were they hiding something from all future generations? John had to find out. He had to go where no one from his community was willing to go. As planned, John made his way to the treehouse about midday that Saturday, 1 week before their expected departure. He got there early because he needed to have a serious conversation with Liz about the trip. He needed to make sure that she was making this trip because she wanted to, and that she did not feel tricked or in any way forced to walk with him in the journey. More than that, he really wanted to know what her motivation was for making the trip. He thought she liked living in the valley. She never spoke of wanting to leave. He also needed to start talking about the initial execution stages. They needed to agree on when they would leave, both the day and the time. They also needed to discuss expectations. They needed to plan for various problems. They needed to consider any and all type of problems they could anticipate along the way. He did not want to fail. Failing to plan would lead to lack of success in the attempt. Since he was assuming the leadership role, he was taking on the responsibility for protecting and ensuring their safety along the way. John was focused on some of his notes when he heard noise coming from the field outside. As always, he carefully hid himself, not making any noise in the treehouse. Slowly he peeked out of one of the windows. He saw Liz, but he was dismayed to see Liz being accompanied by her older cousin Penny. At that point, he knew it was over. She ratted him out. He sunk back into the treehouse and waited for them to climb up. No sense of pretending he wasn't there. John, Liz called out, are you up there? Of course, he replied. He heard Liz start to climb the ladder. Penny followed. When they reached the landing, Liz saw the disappointment in John's eyes. Before you say anything, Liz started. I didn't tell anyone else. John looked at Penny. And your secret is safe with me, Penny added. Well, John added, I don't see anyone's parents following you, so I didn't tell anyone, Liz said again. Except my cousin. She wants to go too. No, John said. You shouldn't even be going. It's too dangerous. Too dangerous for who? Penny added. A girl? No, John said angrily. It's too dangerous for anyone. Then why are you going? Penny asked. Because I have to, John snapped. I just have to. I feel trapped here in the valley. John stopped short, thinking he already made himself too vulnerable as it is. He didn't like feeling vulnerable. It made him feel weak. But there was no other way, it seemed, to explain to the girls just how he felt or why it was important. Didn't you ever think that there was more to life? John asked. This was more of him thinking out loud than an actual question. I feel like I could do more with my life. I should be doing more with my life, even if that means exploring everything we don't know. Just to explore and map the unknown seems like a better life than just working on the farm. John became quiet as he sat on the floor of the treehouse. How do you think I feel? Liz said. My parents are dead. I'm an only child. I've been living with my aunt and cousin since I was a little girl. And Penny's mom is always working. What do you think I have here in the valley? Liz posed. All I have is you and Penny, and I don't want to lose either one of you. So if you want to go exploring, I want to go with you. But it's going to be dangerous, John added. We're not going on a casual hike. This is an adventure into the unknown. Yes, Liz continued. It is going to be dangerous. We know nothing of what's beyond those trees. Liz pointed out the window of the treehouse. But it's important for me to help you, and that's what I want to do. Liz looked at John and smiled. And you know, I'm good with a bow. I can help. And what about you? John asked, looking at Penny. Are you sure you want to come along? You would be leaving your mom and dad and your friends. I don't have any friends, Penny replied sharply. Look at my hand. Penny stuck out her left hand so that John could have a clear view of it. Her fingers were deformed, some attached to each other. The sight made John want to turn away, but he held his nerve. He pushed any discomfort down and looked at Penny's hand for as long as she held it out. I didn't know, John started. How long? Since birth, Penny said. How often have you ever seen me outside or hanging with Liz and other girls? John thought about it. Not much, I guess. My whole life I have been teased and ridiculed for something that is not even my fault, Penny said. Do you know how that feels? Liz is the only friend I have. If she goes, then I'm going too. If you're coming with us, John said, you have to pull your own weight. Is your hand going to get in the way? I'm not useless. Penny glared at John, a bit annoyed. That's not what I meant, John said quickly. I mean, I can cook, Penny said, and I have a friend who can help us as well. No, John said. I can't have anyone else knowing about this. Relax, Penny said. My dog Benji. He can catch us a rabbit without any problem. John laughed. Well, I guess we have a team, he said. Thank you for sharing this quiet moment with me. If this brought you peace, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, and share it with someone who might need a little stillness too. Until next time, keep listening inward.